Hi, and welcome to the Department of Modern Languages and Literature's Summer 2023 New Student Virtual Orientation. This is not the in-person one if you hadn't noticed. And if you hadn't noticed, please pay attention to that slide about counseling and psychological services later in the presentation. So, moving on, we'll start this with an overview. First, we'll have the welcome by Dr. Nathan Carr, Chair of the Department of Modern Languages and Literatures. That's me, and I guess I've already done that. So we're already moving along. Next, we'll talk a little bit about MLL programs, and then I'll give you some hopefully useful information. I'll talk to you a little bit about avoiding plagiarism, a little bit about major advising, and then I will try to give you an 8th floor tour. Hopefully that will go as smoothly as in person. We'll see. I'll do my best. So first, a little bit about our programs here in MLL. We have undergraduate majors, we have undergraduate minors and certificates, and then we have graduate programs. I'll talk about each of those in sequence. Whether you're a French BA student, a Japanese BA student, or a Spanish BA student, you're all learning about the study of language and of culture and linguistics and literature as a complex phenomenon of human communication. And as they interact together as complex phenomena related to human communication. I didn't write this slide, so I'm extemporizing a bit. And all this learning that you're going to do is a process that helps us to better understand ourselves, or you to better understand yourselves and each other, and our values, your roles, our roles, somebody's roles, everybody's roles in a multicultural world. What does that mean? By the time you graduate, we want you to have gained proficiency in other languages in a competitive globalized world. This is not a vocational training school, but we do hope that you'll be able to compete in the workplace. Want you to be able to analyze and think critically about the world we live in today, and the world in other times as well. You need to be able to understand socio-historical processes. You need to be able to understand other cultures and our own culture, and that's a big deal. And you also should be able to work in education or government or social services or tourism or translation services or literature or international business, among other professions. Our graduates wind up in lots of different places. You should be starting to think now about what kind of place you would like to wind up working in and tailor your studies to that end. We also have 5 different minors in the department. We have the Chinese minor, French minor, Japanese minor, Spanish minor, and the Vietnamese minor. Rounding out the undergraduate programs, we also have several certificate programs. We have the Spanish for Hispanic Media Certificate. We have the Translation from Spanish to English and English to Spanish Certificate. We have a Spanish for the Health Professions Certificate. We also have the subject matter preparation programs for French, Spanish, and theoretically for Japanese, for the World Language Secondary Education Credential, except those aren't really necessary anymore. As of about 2022, the State Department of Education teacher credentialing people decided that just having a bachelor's degree would count for subject matter preparation. If you're interested in going into teaching, then you should find out more about that. If you have no interest or desire to become a teacher at all, then don't worry about it and don't trouble your head. Moving on, though, to more about teaching, we've got the undergraduate TESOL certificate program. TESOL is Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages. That overlaps fairly heavily with the subject matter preparation program for the World Language ELD secondary credential. ELD is the same as ESL, except in California they say ELD because English as a second language would be too transparent, I guess. I've never understood it, but that's how it is. The problem is there is no BA in ELD or ESL or TESOL or anything, so you do have to do the subject matter preparation program if you want to teach English, the language, not literature, etc. If you want to teach that in secondary schools, or if you want to teach dedicated ELD in elementary school also. The alternative to doing the subject matter program would be to get a master's in TESOL, and the state will accept that for subject matter preparation too. That's a new thing. It used to be that just having a master's degree, they didn't think meant you knew how to teach English, which always puzzled me, but what do I know? We also have some master's degrees. We have the MA in Spanish, and we have the MS in TESOL. There's also a graduate TESOL certificate, but that's only a good idea if you're getting a master's degree in something else, like linguistics or Spanish. The thing about that certificate is it's not a lot less than a master's degree, and it's enough that you can teach at a community college with it. So by itself, though, you're competing with people who have a master's. So you might as well take the extra 3 classes and the big test and have a master's degree. People that get the master's in TESOL automatically get the TESOL certificate anyway. So we do have some classes in other languages. For Arabic, we only go to Arabic 101 and 102. For German, we have 101 and 102. Italian, we have 2 semesters. Korean goes through 4 semesters. And Persian, we have 2 semesters to offer. And Portuguese, we have 105, which is a first-year review course. And then 214 is a second-year course. And does it cover the whole second year? Probably not exactly. Those are, if you want to study additional languages, those are some good ideas to start with. We also have several interesting clubs in our department, some of which are very active. We have the Asociación de Alumnos y Exalumnos de Español, that's the Student Spanish Club. We have the Latin American Studies Student Association. They're not strictly speaking in the department, but somewhat affiliated anyway. We have the Spanish Theater Group, that's definitely within the department. We have the Association of Chinese Studies. We have the French Club, the Iranian Student Association, the Japanese Culture Club, the Anime Club, or anime if you prefer. I've had people gripe when I pronounce it one way. I've had people gripe when I pronounce it the other, so live with it. And we have the TESOL Club and the TESOL Research Group. Academic advising at Cal State Fullerton is broken up into 3 chunks, at least for now. Right now, we have the Academic Advisement Center, which helps with the GE advising and reviewing overall degree requirements and helping you explore your major and minor or find a major or minor. You already have a major, so that's probably not going to be especially important for you. The Student Success Center, which is located in Humanities 112, helps with academic probation support, except we don't call it probation now, we call it academic notice, which doesn't seem quite as scary, and I thought the whole point was to scare people so they didn't get kicked out of school, but rather got back on track, but whatever. Student Success also helps with study abroad, graduation planning, support for graduation if you have over 60 units, and other academic support. They also do help with GE advising. If it's stuff that GE outside of humanities and social sciences, you may have to go to the Academic Advisement Center. Except, as I understand the new advising model, before too long, all that's going to get moved into one office for the college. It'll be central advising, and yet it'll be college-based, and there'll be under lower division advising for certain 1 or more departments. There'll be each advisor will be dedicated or something. It's been talked about at so many meetings. There have been so many explanations. I've lost track of it somewhat, but it seems like that's all going to get merged together. So for now, go to the Student Success Center for GE stuff and things like that, and they will tell you if you need to go somewhere else. But for major advising, you need to come here. You need to see an advisor in your major. Nobody outside of MLL really is going to be a lot of help with telling you especially what classes to start with. Now, for major requirements, minor advising, some of that stuff can get done outside of this department, but the people at Student Success or anywhere else probably don't know the course rotations. There's also a reason you should not trust your friends, and you should not just self-advise. Sure, you should be looking over your TDA definitely you should look at the catalog. You should look at the department website. Talk about looking at websites in a minute. You should look at all that stuff and listen to people, but then double check. Don't delay your graduation and have to spend an extra semester or two paying tuition that you didn't have to pay. Seriously, it happens every year. Internship opportunities, you can find out about that usually within our department from your advisor. Career questions, a lot of that you can talk about with your faculty advisor, and you can talk about graduate programs with your faculty advisor. If you're thinking about switching to a different field for grad school, then they may say, well, you should go talk to people in the XYZ department about studying XYZ. So here's the program contact information. The department office, the email address is modlanglit@fullerton.edu, and their phone number is 657-278-3534. Department chair, that's me. That's where you get hold of me. Dr. Watanabe, the Japanese program coordinator, here's her email address. And after around August 17th, Dr. Kakihara will become the program coordinator. Dr. Dumont is the French coordinator. Dr. Fidalgo is the Spanish coordinator. Dr. Ruckert is the TESOL program coordinator. Dr. Liu is the Chinese program coordinator. His office is down on the 7th floor, by the way. Everyone else there is on 8 of Humanities Hall. Dr. Nguyen is the Vietnamese program coordinator. And if you want to find the department on Facebook, go to the CSUF Department of Modern Languages and Literatures. Note that during the summer, these professors will not be in their offices very much, if at all. Some of them are out of the country. So email is the way to get hold of them. Now, here are some useful things to know. First, old people still use websites and emails. And this campus is run by old people. By old, I mean over 30 and stuff. And you must adapt to this strange new culture that you're finding yourself in, where the people that are running the place are using websites and emails to communicate. And if you go to another country, to some village, and the people have customs that are not like what you grew up with, and it seems strange and odd, you know that you're supposed to adjust to that. Same thing here. You may have grown up 5 miles away from the campus, but this is a different environment. It's different from community college too, in a number of ways. Email, well, first you need to check campus web pages to find things out. A lot of information that you probably need to know is on web pages. That's why they're made. Indiana Jones has to go digging things up and looking in abandoned temples to find what he wants. You have to go to websites to find things that you need to know. Whether you want to know them or not may be another matter, but you need them. Email also is how stuff gets done. This is how people know that something needs to be done. Half of what I do involves email in my job, because the email tells me what I need to do. I get an email and it's like a one-sentence answer, or I get an email like, oh, I have to go look that up and go dig up that information too. So you will need to read emails from instructors and from campus offices. School emails will go to your @csu.fullerton.edu address. Check that address. Important stuff goes there. A lot of times they will not send it to your personal address. I've had some people tell me, oh, legally we can't send it to that. We have to send it to their campus address. I've always said, well, couldn't we send it to both? It used to be the learning management system stuff. You could specify what address it went to, but that was evidently too flexible. So there we have it. You will also need to write emails to instructors, to university staff, and to administrators. That's how things get done. You get into the workflow queue with an email, basically. The MLL department webpage is this, http://hss.fullerton.edu/MLL. If you put an S on there, that's probably going to work. If you need to visit the department office in person, I encourage you to call ahead, 657-278-3534. Why should you call ahead? They're supposed to be open 8 to 5, right? Right, they're supposed to be. But sometimes they're short-staffed, especially during school breaks. But it could be that on a given day, one person is telecommuting and one is out sick and one is there in the office but had to go to lunch or had to take a break or had to run downstairs to the college office to get the mail or something. Things happen. There might not be anybody in the office at a given half hour or 20 minutes or whatever when you're there. So call ahead and double check, find out. And if someone's telecommuting, they'll still be answering the phone even if there's no one physically in the office. They do really try to stagger that stuff out. Also, the whole university has been having a critical staff shortage since, I would say, at least January of 2022, possibly earlier. So at the time I'm recording this, we have a fully staffed office. I try not to talk about that around other department chairs because they might want to steal some of our people, because we've got big departments with like one staff member. I don't know how they're getting anything done. Maybe they're not. Some more useful things to know. Find your major advisor at the fullerton.edu/mll or hss.fullerton. And it's loading. There we go. We have the advisors, all of them. As chair, I get to advise all these. No, I don't speak these languages. I can fake a little bit of German, but that's all. We have the Japanese advisors. Note this will be changing because Dr. Shibata has just retired. Spanish advisors. Dr. Hussar has just left us to go be a to be an associate dean in Monterey Bay. Dr. Zampalo has just left us to go become a department chair in St. Louis. Teach all Vietnamese. So you can find all the information and whatever the current situation is with advising. In most programs, it's done by first letter of last name. If you need advising, or if you need an enrollment permit, or if you have a question, it's a good idea to put your name and your CWID in all emails. Especially for enrollment permits, you can't get a permit without the CWID, and there's no lookup function on that page. It's an electronic thing, and we've got to have the CWID to get it done. For looking things up, to advise you, we may also need the CWID. We might not be able to do it by name. Also, you should enroll as early as you can once your enrollment window opens. Seriously, within the first hour is not too soon. Waiting for the clock to tick and for the hour to come, that is not being crazy. That's just trying to survive. Also, as I mentioned, don't self-advise. Do check your TDA, but then talk to an advisor. Don't trust your friends. They could be wrong. So don't. If you need an enrollment permit, ask the instructor. If an instructor has not been assigned, ask the program coordinator. The university catalog is here. There's all sorts of stuff there. Registration and records, their webpage is here. And you go there for registration information, like registration guides, registration calendars. The registration guide for every semester has a lot of stuff in there, a lot of information, a dizzying amount. Also, the records website has forms and petitions, and also information about your Titan degree audit. Finally, the Academic Advising Center website is here, fullerton.edu/AAC. And some still more useful things to know. Academic resources, you can find this, it's at the Student Success page. I think that's worth taking a look at. It has links to the Office of Graduate Studies, Supplemental Instruction, explains what it is, the library, the University Learning Center, where you can get free tutoring, the Writing Center, where you can get free tutoring with writing, another link to the online catalog. So we've got 3 different places you can get free tutoring on campus depending on what kind of course it is. The University Library, there's that website. You might want to go to the library sometime in your college career. There might be a book or an article that would be useful to you. Just say it. The Titan One-Stop Shop. This has a lot of things. It does have a link to the academic resources page, but you have to poke around a little to find it. It's got stuff on admissions, which is not as much use to you now that you've been admitted. There's stuff on financial aid, some things from registration and records, student business services, and again, a link to the Student Success Teams page. And you can go from there to the HSS Student Success page. Now, you are going to have problems, not to be negative, but this is life, and life is full of problems. They happen. Get help before things reach a crisis stage. If it's a little problem and you're handling it, then great. But if it's a big deal, if something bad is happening or some things are starting to go wrong, remember the old saying, a stitch in time saves 9. Back in the days when people fixed their clothes, 1 stitch in time would save you from having to do 9 stitches to fix the piece of clothing. So fix the problem early, get help with it. If you're having trouble coping with school life, whatever, there's a reason that Counseling and Psychological Services has a 24/7 crisis line. It's not because nobody ever calls, sadly. I wish no one ever needed to call, but they're there. They've got a website and they've got the crisis line. Also, again, for the academic crises or academic problems, see your major advisor, go to the Learning Center or the Writing Center, wherever it is you need to go to get tutoring. Another little tidbit that might help keep you from getting more frustrated in life, read the signs about parking. Don't get stuck paying an $80 one-time parking fee. We call that a fine. Parking Services is a revenue center for the campus. They don't care about your excuse. They don't care about department chair excuses either. So it's nothing personal. $80. And the appeals process is not a very satisfactory experience, let me tell you. It's not fun. So follow the signs, don't get ticketed. And a few more random bits of advice, go to office hours. Professors are there during office hours to help you. Go. That's the whole point, is for the students to go. Not enough do. And by the way, a lot of professors will have online office hours too, or a mix. I try to do mine hybrid, so I'm usually logged in on Zoom and I'm in the office. Office hour schedules are going to be on the class syllabus for the class you're in. They're going to be on the MLL website, and they'll be on the bulletin board that's across from H835C, Humanities 835C, which happens to be the chair's office. Another little random tidbit of knowledge, which you're going to find confusing sometimes, is in the Humanities building, for office numbers, the letter matters. For example, 835C. I think there are over 12 835s. It's 835A, B, C, D. I think it maybe goes to L, possibly. I'm not sure. Now, why did they number it like that? That's a question you should have asked in 1969 when the building opened. But it being the 60s, I'm thinking there might be a better living through chemistry sort of answer to what was going on. I don't know. It was an experimental decade. So just pay attention to the letter. If you can't make it to office hours and you still need to see the instructor, talk to the instructor, email them, explain the situation. Maybe they could handle it by email. Maybe they'll meet you at another time, or they'll Zoom with you at a different time. If it's, oh, Tuesday's not convenient for me. Well, sorry, Tuesday is convenient for them. But if it's, I have to work on Tuesday, I can't come to office hours, okay, that's a different thing. All right, then usually professors will find some way to get, work with you. And last little tidbit, being persistent and being organized will do more to help you graduate than being smart. Refuse to quit. Don't give up. As long as you don't quit, there is still hope. It's when you quit that then of course there's no hope, because you quit. You're not trying anymore. Another thing, plan your studying, plan your homework, and plan your projects. Plan when you're going to work on stuff. Plan when in the semester you're going to do this and that. Plan what time on a given day you're going to study for this class or prep for it. Organization and preparation are the two most important things. Speaking as someone who's graduated from college 3 times, let's keep you out of probation, off probation, keep you doing well. These are things that will help you with that. Now, moving on to another thing that could get you in academic difficulty, let's talk about plagiarism. If you claim you wrote something when someone else or something else, like an AI, wrote it, that's plagiarism. If you use information that somebody else wrote and you don't give attribution, you don't say, hey, they wrote this, with citations and then a reference list or bibliography, that's plagiarism. If you copy information directly from another source without quote marks and attribution, just have quote marks, that's not enough. If you just say it came from there, but you don't say it's a direct quote, that's plagiarism. So if you copy it directly with attribution but with no quote marks, bad. If you copy information directly with the quote marks but without attribution, bad. If you paraphrase information from another source but you don't give any attribution, that's also plagiarism. And most instructors will say, how does this student have such detailed knowledge from their own heads? I bet they don't. And they'll be right. If you submit something that you wrote before in another course, that's plagiarism. And Turnitin will catch that. I had a friend when I was an undergrad who turned in the same paper in 3 different classes. I don't know how he got away with that, how the paper met the requirements for 3 different classes, but it did. But that was some time before Turnitin was even an idea in anyone's head. If you quote from a paper that you wrote before without attribution, again, Turnitin will catch that. And if you paraphrase from a paper that you wrote before without attribution, Turnitin might catch that. You got to paraphrase well. Turnitin is magic. Now, some of the consequences of plagiarism, you can get grade penalties. Could be on the assignment, could be for the entire course. Could be a 0 on the paper, could be an F in the course. You risk being reported to the Dean of Students' Office of Student Conduct, and in fact, that's required under university policy. It's also kind of embarrassing, I think, to get caught cheating. You can get put on probation, or now I guess we call it put on academic notice, and you could even get the boot. Here we've got like the Michael Jackson special, but we're not talking footwear. We're talking about getting kicked out. You can get suspended or expelled from Cal State Fullerton. And in fact, suspension is usual for a second offense. So you don't want that to happen to you. Don't let this be you. Don't plagiarize. Now, moving back on to more pleasant topics, as opposed to me trying to keep you out of my office for unpleasant purposes. For major advising, the first step is you need to figure out what the right class or classes are. We have websites with generic advice about what classes to take. And if you're watching this now, well, of course you're watching it now, or you wouldn't be watching it. So what you could do is pause and type in the URL before you continue. Step 2, once you know what the right class is, enroll today. Step 3, if you enrolled in the first class without talking to an advisor, schedule an appointment with your advisor as early as possible to double check your course selection and then to work out your study plan for future semesters. You want to make sure you graduate when you're planning to, and that you don't think, oh, I'm going to graduate at the end of this semester, and then when your grad check gets done, the advisor has to email you and say, oh, sorry, you can't graduate this semester. You took the wrong class. For other advising besides your major, if you want advising about other languages, for French, Japanese, or Spanish, please see the advisors page. For Chinese, email Dr. Liu. For Vietnamese, email Dr. Nguyen. For TESOL, email Dr. Ruckert or me. You're probably going to need a permit anyway for most of the TESOL classes. That usually takes less than a day. Why does it usually take a permit? It's a long story, and I don't know why the computers are much pickier about the undergrad classes than they are about the graduate classes, but they are. But don't worry, it's common. For Arabic, German, Italian, Korean, or Persian, email, oh, that's me. Okay, so. Well, I was honestly going to give you a tour of the 8th floor. I even shot the video, but when I watched it, I thought, this is going to make people dizzy. It almost made me dizzy, and I was the one holding the camera. So just remember, if you can find Humanities Hall, the west side of the building is the side with the 4 elevators. That's the side facing the quad. The east side faces the faculty parking lot, has the 1 elevator, the freight elevator. So if you're on the west side with the 4 elevators, that's the side where the department office is, and the men's and women's restrooms and the water fountains. And from there, the department chair's office, my office, won't be too hard to find. If you can't find a faculty member's office, go into the department office and they will be able to help direct you. You come out of the elevators and turn right and you'll get to the department office. So, welcome to Cal State Fullerton. Welcome to the Department of Modern Languages and Literatures. Welcome to your major. Hope you're going to have a fun and, even more importantly, a productive and educational few years here. And I look forward to meeting you in person. Bye-bye, and welcome aboard.